What's up? What's up? I'm Dr. Omatma, host of Egg Meets Sperm, where we're busting fertility myths, sharing tangible tips for your fertility journey, and bringing you the most knowledgeable guests to support your journey to parenthood. This podcast is for both women and men because getting fertile as fuck is for both partners, don't you think? Remember, just listening to this podcast won't get you pregnant, but following the tips we share just may. Let's get you fertile AF so that you can co-create the family you dream of. And if your partner's not listening to this, make sure to share this episode with your partner. Hello and welcome to Egg Meets Sperm. My guest today is Olivia Mitchell. She is a functional fertility dietitian who dives deeper into often overlooked causes of infertility and provides customized diet, lifestyle, and supplement changes in order to help couples everywhere get pregnant naturally. She is passionate about getting couples better answers that take the stress out of the fertility challenges, all while promoting better health in both partners and their future family. Welcome, Olivia. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, this topic is kind of near and dear because unexplained infertility tends to be really prominent as far as a diagnosis, quote unquote, goes. But in reality, it's not really telling us a whole lot of anything. So let's dive into what is unexplained infertility and what do we do? What can we do about it?
Right. Unexplained infertility is that blanket diagnosis, I like to say, that a couple would be given after 12 months of actively trying to conceive. If you're over the age of 35, I think it's 6 months of actively trying to conceive. And basically what it means is they just don't know what's going on and what your obstacles are to getting pregnant. And most times there hasn't been much to dive into what's going on there, unfortunately, in the conventional fertility setting. And so this can be very frustrating for couples because they, especially a lot of couples I see, are generally healthy, no major medical issues. And so they finally decide to start a family, are very excited. It doesn't go as planned, but yet not much is being talked about, discussed, no questions are being asked from their doctors, no guidance. And then at the end of that 12 months, they're oftentimes just referred for IVF or an IUI with medicated IUIs and then eventually an IVF. And it's just kind of a shock, like, wait a minute. Oh, what we aren't there other things that we can be doing, right? Aren't there other answers that we could maybe explore? And I so applaud and appreciate those, and this is where spreading awareness of this is very important, to actually think that way and ask those questions rather than just get caught up in the, okay, well, we tried for 12 months, we did our time, and the next step is IVF, and that's that. So that's where I like to really make sure that people understand that you do have options still.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what do you recommend? Like if someone were just starting to try, or maybe they're a couple of months in, and they're like, hey, this is not quite happening the way we anticipated. What's your suggestion in how people approach this time?
Yes, there's so many things that we can be doing this time. And I would like to first start by saying that there's no right or wrong time to start doing these things, right? If you feel like you're already, 9 months in, 12 months in, 2 years in, now is the best time to start. Honestly, before trying to conceive is a great time to start as well. And we can talk about that later. But yeah, if you're a couple months in and you're kind of just surprised that things aren't going how you anticipated, the best place to begin is to understand what's happening with your hormones on the most basic level by doing something like fertility awareness method or cycle tracking.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know you're a big proponent of this and you work with all of your clients on this, which I so admire and I think is so important. And this is really just helping couples to understand, is a woman ovulating? If so, when is she ovulating? And how to capture that what we call a fertile window, which is the best time to have sex on a month where you are trying for a baby. And right there is something that, when you hear it, it kind of sounds pretty basic, but unfortunately, most women are not taught much about their hormones. And so oftentimes this idea of ovulation, timing things appropriately, it can be a little bit gray still. And so that's the first area, definitely. And the next layer to that is not only figuring out if we're ovulating, and ovulating is something that has to happen for us to get pregnant, but how our hormones are really operating for us. Are they working in our fertility's favor, or do they need some support? And so by just starting to track, you can find a lot of things, really uncover a lot of helpful things about your hormones and give them support with things like nutrition, lifestyle changes, the right supplementation that really change the course of your next few months of trying to conceive. And so that's definitely number one. What we can learn through tracking our cycles is just invaluable. So I'd say that would be the very first place to start.
Yeah. So cycle tracking, start understanding your cues, start understanding what your body's doing and when it's doing what it's doing, gives a lot of insight. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. And really, I'll add to that, many people that I see are already doing that. A lot of couples that I see are like, yep, here's my charts, like, I know when I'm ovulating, I see my temp drop, my temp increase. And then if that's the case for you, then labs would be a next second best go-to as well, and dive deeper with labs.
Yeah. So what labs do you like people to start with?
I often say that it's dependent on the person, right? And I'm sure anyone that's in functional medicine kind of feels me on that, because it is so individual. However, some labs that I really, really love to run basically for anyone that can be helpful would include things like vitamin D, a full thyroid panel. So all 5 to 6 markers of a thyroid panel, not just TSH. This would also include some metabolic labs, so maybe like insulin and glucose, iron, as well as some inflammatory markers to see what could potentially be going on with underlying inflammation stemming from gut or, again, possibly other imbalances in the body. And then your general hormone tests, so things like FSH, LH, see how ovulation is happening, that brain to ovary communication, potentially AMH, but we don't need to jump to that right away. So those, even the non-fertility labs, and that's something that I'd like to differentiate there. The non-fertility labs, the standard, if you're in that first year or after that first year of trying to conceive, you likely have done a lot of fertility labs and hormone labs themselves. And although that's very, very helpful and powerful, I like to take a step back and look at, kind of pull the hyper-focus away from just the reproductive organs, right? So because we know our whole body contributes to both male and female fertility. So I want to see what's going on in the thyroid, what's going on in the adrenals. So a 4-point cortisol salivary, or something in urine testing like the Dutch. I want to see, again, inflammatory markers, nutrient markers. So that is where I initially go, especially because a lot of people that do come and really pursue our program kind of have already done a lot of the traditional fertility labs.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. And it's so important to see the full picture. I will also say the number of times that I've talked to women that have been on this journey for 2, 3, 5 years even, and we ask them for their hormone labs, and they're like, oh yeah, those are from 3 years ago, and they were not on a particular day of my cycle. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't understand how a fertility specialist did these labs on a random day. So it's mind-boggling that even that sometimes we have to like repeat because they're old or they weren't done at the right time. So yeah, I think absolutely true. Like, get into the other stuff and maybe do the fertility hormones at the right time.
Yes, and I think one of the important messages there too, I think for people is to understand that even though you may have felt like you've done everything and you've done all the tests and everything's come back quote normal, I think the importance of having a second opinion or a third opinion is so, so important, because if not, we get in our mind just like, okay, well, I've done everything, I've done everything I could do. This is what my doctor told me. This is what they did. And that's that. The only thing left is pursuing that next step of medication or IVF, which again is nothing wrong with. However, if we actually, like yourself was saying, like maybe another doctor or practitioner would say, yeah, these are outdated, or like you said, that the timing was off, so these aren't even accurate. So we actually don't have all the information that we could. And so having that, I think getting a second opinion is just so, so important in any case.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Like, it can help support in such a deep way to have someone else look at it. And let's talk for a second, because you mentioned labs, and there's this, like, even conventional labs like thyroid hormones or inflammation markers, right? There is the normal, what's commonly accepted as quote unquote normal, versus what's optimal. And there's quite a difference between the two. And it's for functional practitioners, it's like, well, we're always looking for optimal. We don't care what normal looks like or what the range is on a lab test. So can we talk about that for a little bit?
This is such a big difference between traditional and approach to health and fertility and functional. And I think it is just such an important one for people to recognize is, yeah, I mean, fertility, I often call it as a bonus activity, honestly, that our bodies can do, right? Our bodies have to feel safe. Our bodies have to feel nourished. We have to have enough resources to make a baby, to grow a baby and have a baby. And so if our bodies are, yeah, we're generally feel well, we don't have any major health conditions, but if that is really made up of all of these normal labs that are on the point above being a full-blown deficiency, or it's one point below being a full-blown disease diagnosed, like diabetes, insulin resistance, thyroid disease, etc., that's not optimal. That's your body is not in the best state, and it doesn't have those resources to put toward this kind of bonus activity. And so some major ones that I see, and I would say 95% of the time when I get someone that's come to me and said, yeah, my labs are normal, I'm like, okay, great, but I would like to look at them. They're not optimal. And so, I mean, thyroid is a huge one. The normal range of thyroid, or just TSH, which is a very popular thyroid marker, goes all the way up to, I think, 5.5. Is that right? And optimal, really, we don't want to see above 2.5 or 3 max for fertility. Another one, I just had someone yesterday who I did a strategy session with, and her vitamin D was 30. That is the minimum, right? 30 is the cutoff. But because it wasn't 29, there was nothing done about it. But we know that in fertility studies, especially those done in an IVF setting, a vitamin D of 60, even 70, sometimes 80 even, is optimal. And so she needed to double that. She needed to double her vitamin D, yet that was just breezed over. Insulin is another one, which is very important for our ovary health and metabolic health. Oftentimes the range can go up to 25. I think it's 25 is the top, and optimally I'm looking for like a 7 or 9, right? So you can tell even just by those 3 examples that it is a drastic difference, and really important for someone to have that second glance over those and really be able to see that through a functional lens. And even just looking at that can be a game changer for your fertility journey.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. Really, so again, to the point of get a second opinion. Like, don't sit on this for months and months or years sometimes. Just reach out to people, right? Like, reach out, talk, let's have a conversation and figure out, are these optimal? And if they are, then what else? And if they're not, then that's okay. Let's work on optimizing.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have I think it's a 9-page PDF guide in our program. And actually you can just pick it up whenever outside of a program, and it lists out every one of these labs we're talking about, shows you the normal range and the optimal range, and really helps you to actually write them out in there. And you're able to see, okay, yeah, I'm doing pretty well on these. I'm hitting most of them in the optimal range. Or as we were just saying, whoa, a lot of these are not optimal. I need to work on these or get them retested or really see what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about unexplained infertility and some of the underlying things, the potentially like quote unquote root causes, like we like to call them. What are some of the root causes of this like unexplained infertility?
Yeah, it's a great question, and there are many, which is why oftentimes it can be so frustrating when none of them are explored. The three major ones that I would just like to draw attention to first are suboptimal thyroid, so not even thyroid disease, but just suboptimal. Adrenal dysfunction, so our adrenals, which are our stress system in the body, are not working optimally. They're themselves maybe a little stressed. And silent gut problems. And I say silent because this one's oftentimes looked over. If you just say gut issues, people think, well, I don't have constipation, I don't have bloating, my gut's fine. So silent gut issues, things that are going on that we might not necessarily feel, but based off of a lifestyle of, on the go, not having breakfast, drinking coffee on an empty stomach, maybe taking a lot of antibiotics as a kid, being on certain medications, right? These take a toll on our gut. And those three root causes oftentimes are what then causes or leads to other downstream things that we may hear about, right? Things like nutrient deficiencies, things like hormone imbalance. And so those are pretty like hot topics that we might hear about. But I like to pull it back even more and say, well, where do those begin? Where do we have to look to address low progesterone or PCOS or inflammatory imbalances? And oftentimes those three root causes are key to helping us understand that. And once we get in there and start to begin to optimize those, then all these little subsets are going to fix themselves and ultimately then lead to the bigger goal of having improved fertility.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I mean, just starting there, I find is like a huge, especially for someone who's kind of new to looking at and diving deeper and asking the questions that might be behind unexplained infertility. Those are three that I love to focus on and find that gives me a ton of results with the most people.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit on one of my trigger buttons, which is progesterone. So let's go there because I love to hear other people's perspectives on it. Let's talk about progesterone deficiency or luteal phase deficiency or defect, I should say, and how that actually isn't like putting progesterone into your body maybe isn't the solution.
Yes. Unfortunately, again, it's another tempting solution, right? I get it. I'm low on progesterone, I'll take progesterone. I think this goes back to our idea of medicine in this country is, well, I have an issue, so, I have a deficiency, I'll just take the pill, or I have a pain, I take the pill, a pill for an ill, right? Medicine, health model. And we still are not looking at why. And so just by giving progesterone, just by saying, okay, take this pill or cream or suppository, you're still not understanding why it's low in the first place, which is the biggest and most important question to ask. So and anytime we're giving something, it's not as powerful and helpful as if our body were to make it. So I think that's also a really important concept for people to understand, is that, yes, we oftentimes want that quick fix. I get it, especially if you've been trying to conceive for 12 plus months. I understand any amount of time, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I get it. 3 months can feel like 3 years. But we still want to be trying to think, because not only is that going to help our fertility outcomes, it's going to help our health. Our health, if we're just talking about progesterone and women's fertility, progesterone is our anti-anxiety hormone. It's our sleep hormone. It's our mood stabilizer hormone. It is going to not only help our pregnancy, but our health, our pregnancy outcomes. So it's just a whole lot more than taking a prescription to fix the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to also just point out to people, like, again, if people get so frustrated at me, it's, and I understand, and I totally get why it's frustrating. They ask a question and I say, well, it depends, right? Like, it depends on your why. And I get it. They're just like, but tell me what to do. I actually cannot if I don't know why, right? Why is your progesterone low? Why?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if we just think about, some reasons or some underlying reasons why progesterone is low, there are so many, right? It can be, well, the number a big one that I see, and you're probably right there too, is stress.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I know that's kind of broad because, stress is such a, it is hard to address stress. I understand. But stress, whether that's from, we have to ask, what's the stress from? Is that from under eating, over exercising? Is that from actual stress from work, financial stress that we kind of typically think about, right? If our hormones are stressed, and if our ovaries are stressed, if our body is stressed, progesterone is gonna suffer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one. We got to figure out what's stressing your fertility, what's stressing that hormone. And so that's a huge one. And so understanding, where do we have to start to address low progesterone? Stress, this could be other ovulatory issues, right? That may also be related to stress.
Mm-hmm.
But, is estrogen not doing what it's supposed to do in the first half of the cycle? What other medications that are impacting progesterone? So other hormones that are impacting progesterone. So it very much is important to ask those questions, dive deeper to the why, and ultimately, when people want that answer, that's where I go back to those 3 root causes. And I say, there are easy changes that we can make to support the thyroid, the adrenals, and the gut. And those easy changes are going to, again, help those downstream imbalances like low progesterone. And so, if someone, doesn't want to dive into testing right away, if someone doesn't, maybe they are not ready to take that next step into IVF, but aren't really sure what to do and have taken all the supplements, you got to go back to those 3.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because I think I had a feeling that we shared similar views on the progesterone thing, and just like what you said in terms of like, take a step back. Like, yes, we could give you progesterone to fix your low progesterone, but anytime we give your body something rather than helping your body make it, we're doing you a disservice, right? So as a provider, it's so important to be like, well, let's find the underlying thing and let's not skip over that, because sure, the progesterone will be there. Let's suppose that you're pregnant tomorrow and you need progesterone. Please take the progesterone.
Yes.
It's okay. Don't stress about it. But if you're not pregnant and it's not happening, and you have all the signs and symptoms saying, hey, this is not going in the way that we would want you to go for optimal fertility, then dial it back and really figure out what's happening and take that time to pause, slow down because it's going to help you accelerate.
Yep, it was so well said. And I think that goes back to this bigger issue of this fast medicine, fast world we live in, right? And although I love it, I love getting things quickly, right? I love getting Amazon the next day. I love quick fixes here and there, but our health is one that oftentimes we gotta slow down a little bit and really consider the why.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love that. So let's talk a little bit because we talked about all the varieties of labs that are around that often, even like a full thyroid panel seems like a very simple thing, but is sometimes not a simple thing, right?
Mm.
So what do you what is your guidance around like people getting the labs that they need for their fertility?
Yeah. Great question. Great question. So, understanding your root causes again can help you with this because it can help you to pull out, well, yeah, I mean, it seems like thyroid is an area I need to focus on. I'm going to really take this information to my doctor and try to have a conversation about it. That will likely leave you with better results from your practitioner than just going in and saying, I think I need this. Can you get the test? So I always recommend, one, try to have an educated and empowered discussion with your practitioner,
Mm-hmm.
taking information, taking your symptoms that you're experiencing. And I know thyroid is such a tricky one because it manifests as so many other things. And so, it is
Sometimes people like don't have any symptoms, right?
yes,
And it could be anything, right?
yes.
Like, oh, I'm tired. And then I've had people come to me and say, I'm tired, I have parasites. And I'm like,
Yeah.
let's talk about where you've been in the last 3 years and
Right.
really figure out if you could have parasites. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
yeah, like really being aware that sometimes there aren't symptoms. And
Mhm.
it's still important to have like that empowered conversation to see if you can get your doctor enrolled in your vision for what it is that you want for your health, for your fertility journey, and all of that.
Yeah, and it is this journey of not only trying to have a baby, but this journey of understanding our power in it too, and this
Mhm.
empowerment piece. And maybe this does shine some light on the fact that, okay, I think that I would like to bring another practitioner on board, or I would like to work with a practitioner that will be willing to have a conversation with me.
Mhm.
And so those are things that I think not only, again, help us now, but help us for years down the road, and then eventually advocating for our children and advocating for their health better. So number one, I think that is just a place where we can begin to think differently and brainstorm. And then ultimately, if getting these tests aren't in your control or you're just not having any success there, then remembering that that's only one part of the equation. Things like thyroid, gut, adrenal, the power of those being root causes and what root causes to things like subfertility or infertility, the power that we have in that is that we drive the most improvement with diet, lifestyle, and potentially supplements, right? Those are last. Those are last because diet and lifestyle are such big drivers. So if we're having these issues and if we're unable to get labs to confirm it, I know labs are concrete and it's nice to see it in the data. But things like, eating foods that support your thyroid on a regular basis, learning how to mitigate your stress or increase what's called our allostatic load, which is how our body handles stress. I always like to remind people that there's always going to be stress. We're always going to have stress. It comes into our brain. Our brain then tells our body how to react. And we actually have a lot of ability to send a different message to our body, that message of safety. And so even by working on that, and then gut health, finding what foods are inflammatory, whether that's just through a typical 4R protocol, elimination diet for a couple of weeks, bringing in anti-inflammatory foods. We always want to focus on bringing in more than we're taking out. these things, even just those very briefly mentioned things that we can do, have a huge impact on each of those systems. And then another layer of this power is that each of those systems communicate to each other, right? So, hey, that's too much for you? Great, then let's just start with one of them. And by improving one of those things, you're going to improve all of those things. And so that is where we can really start to feel a difference in being back in control of our own fertility.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you so much for being here and sharing all of your wisdom, because I think that it's so important for couples on this journey to realize that there are different approaches out there, and it's not just like try, and then do IVF, right? Like
and
that,
and be burnout and stressed and anxious and terrified, right? Yeah, you can feel differently.
And like trying for a year and having it not go like you expected, because most women like were given this false idea that we're going to get pregnant the instant that we have sex, right? Like unprotected sex, boom, you're going to be having a baby. And then you get into actually wanting a family and you're like, wait, what? Like, why is this taking so long? And then
I always tell people too, if we actually knew, like if the general population knew how complicated it is to actually have a healthy sperm come together with a healthy egg in a healthy uterine environment and actually grow into it's amazing that anyone gets pregnant. It really is.
I had the same thought when I first took embryology, and realizing that there's this like protective layer on the egg. So not only did the egg had to develop through all of these different stages, and then it had to be ovulated at the right time, and then the sperm actually had to swim through a whole thing to get to the egg
and break through that layer,
only to break through a protective layer on the egg. It's not easy. Like none of this is easy.
And even just too thinking that as a female, just talking about from an ovary perspective, your ovaries were actually in your grandmother when she was pregnant with your mother, and what your grandmother did or was exposed to or ate affects your fertility today. It's like, what? And so like even just taking some of that pressure off, I feel can be so helpful for people. But you're right, we don't learn this stuff, right? Like this isn't common knowledge, and unfortunately, like maybe that would change in the future. But yeah, it's not easy, guys. So if it's not happening in the first month or the first 3 or the first 12, you're not broken. There's oftentimes solutions that really can help you either to get pregnant naturally or increase success rates if you do go on to have IUI or IVF. So that's also something to remember about these changes.
Absolutely. So important. Thank you for this conversation. I'm grateful that you are here and that you're sharing this work with the world. Where is the best place for people to connect with you?
I'm mostly on Instagram. So at yourfertility.yourfuture is my Instagram handle. And from there, you can find everything that you need to learn more. We have a whole online store and app. You can go on and begin a fertility optimization program, free root cause to see what your root causes might be, testing options and help with that. So everything's right there on our Instagram.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll look forward to all of your amazing tips for the rest of the week.
Amazing.
Yep. For those of you listening in, make sure to tune back in for all of Olivia's amazing. Was that an amazing episode or what? Make sure to check our show notes so that you can link up with our guests. And if you're not a part of our secret Fertile AF community, you can join for free via the link in our show notes. Last but not least, have you showed us some love lately? It would mean the world to us if you could share and review our podcast. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time on Egg Meets Sperm. Peace.